carbs. The second third of the meal, slow down, pay some attention. The third third of the meal, chew the crap out of the complex carbohydrates. This works because A, life is life and you can't do things perfectly, so it gives you some wiggle room. But if you chew the last part of the meal, the amylase-rich chyme, and by the way, the word chyme, C-H-Y-M-E, is the word for chewed food. The chyme that you swallow at the end will actually retroactively work on what you've put in your stomach. There's no amylase in your stomach, by the way. It's hydrochloric acid that comes in your stomach. The second time amylase is introduced into your digestive system is actually in your small intestine. And you don't want to make your small intestine do all the work. Most of it's meant to be up here. So wolf and joy chew. The benefits of chewing, like I said earlier, let me just check the time. Satisfaction. I had an eating disorder most of my childhood, although it wasn't identified in childhood, but definitely as a teenager I started to wrestle with my weight and with eating, with binge eating. I was the kind of person who could binge and feel like my stomach was so tight and all I wanted was my stomach to, have the pressure released, and still I would want to eat more. I was a sugar addict, and sugar breaks down so quickly that it really doesn't matter what's happening in the body, you just want to keep getting sugar. And I was in a chronic state of dissatisfaction. That, if you've ever experienced it, is a very particular type of hell. It's really awful to wrestle with food issues. It's really awful to step up from a perfectly good lunch and spend the next 5 hours thinking chronically about what's for dinner. And that's what happens when you are in chronic low blood sugar. So when I was introduced to this concept, and it came as I studied macrobiotics, I went to a place called the Cushy Institute in Western Massachusetts, which unfortunately no longer exists, and it's a place where you can go and study macrobiotics and learn about it and eat the food and talk to people who are like-minded. And at the Cushy Institute, they actually had a whole part of the place, which was a chapel, because the Institute had been run by, was it the Jesuits? Franciscan monks, before the Cushys bought it. The chapel was devoted to chewing. So people would take their meals, understanding that it's difficult to chew when you're talking to a bunch of people, and you would go into the chapel and it was silent. And that's where you were given the time and the space to chew. So this was the first time in my life I'd ever done that. And I chewed and I chewed and I chewed, and I tell you, it doesn't take long. This is not something you have to practice for months before you get the payoff I'm about to describe. It'll happen instantly. I chewed this food. Clearly, I understand now that what happened was I beat the crap out of a complex carbohydrate, applied my amylase, it converted to glucose, it went to my brain, and suddenly I was like, I want to take a hike. I can't tell you that I've never thought those words before. In my entire life, I want to take a hike. At the end of lunch, it was always, where's dessert? What's going to be for dinner? How much do I weigh? What's wrong with me? And I was suddenly in my body, in the moment, no longer interested in food. And I pushed extra food away. I had never pushed extra food away. But my body, which is a miracle upon which we could meditate until the end of time, has a wisdom that when I respect it by using my 3 inches of personal responsibility and doing what I'm meant to do, achieved perfect homeostasis in that moment. And I was interested in my environment, I was interested in other people, and my life in that moment went beyond food. So, satisfaction. When your brain gets enough glucose, you will experience satisfaction, perhaps for you, for the first time ever or in a long time. It's amazing to live in the moment and actually pay attention to what's in front of you and not be neurotically connected invisibly to all sorts of other concerns. It's a real freedom. It's what meditation and spiritual evolution are all about. And this is like the cheap way of getting there. Come on. Oh, shoot. Mike, I need your help. Where'd he go? Have we lost him? Hey, Mike. Marianne, I have messed with this. I just need to go back about 4 slides to benefits of chewing, satisfaction. No, forward, much more. More. Go like 10 slides more. More, thank you. Keep going. Look how much you've learned today. It's really amazing. Okay, next slide, please. Great. Better digestion, proper use of the food. Who here wrestles with digestive issues and just thinks, oh, I have gas. Oh, I can't eat beans. Oh, I don't know, being vegetarian sounds really farty. I mean, come on. We're all like, I can't have sex tonight. I'm kind of farty. Before I teach a lecture, I chew the crap out of my food. Before I go on a date, I chew the crap out of my food. If I don't want to be gassy and disgusting, I chew the crap out of my food. Because by taking charge of the 3 inches of personal responsibility, if we look at your body as a business, the rest of the business runs perfectly. By introducing the amylase and breaking the complex carbs down into their component tiny micro pieces, everything else behaves exactly the way it was intended to, because we were intended to do that. Cavemen were not just wolfing food, being like, come on, let's get to the game. They were sitting around when they actually got the food and chewing the crap out of it. Weight loss. They did a study in China where one group chewed very vigorously and consciously, another group did not, and the chewers lost 14% more weight than the other people. This also cuts down on your grocery bills. I swear, I used to do something on Facebook called Tuesday. Every Tuesday I would post about chewing, and we would have chew-a-thons, like week-long chew-a-thons, and people during the chew-a-thons would be like, I have bought half as many groceries as I would normally, and that's been my experience too. It's alkalizing, like I said, and remember that inflammation, which is caused by acidity, underlies almost every single chronic disease. Uh-oh. Just waiting for what happened before. Come on. Come on. I feel like I'm talking to a kitten. Come on. Come on. Oh, there we go. Spiritual connection. That's a heavy thing to say. But consider this. When you chew properly, and I'm going to repeat it again, beating the crap out of a complex carbohydrate, applying amylase, if you were to do that with every bite, all you are consuming is liquid. Liquid that has been alkalized, liquid that has been charged energetically by you and your mouth, liquid that has the proper enzymes in it. It's the perfect thing for your body. If you've ever been on a liquid diet, you know how light you feel because your intestines are being asked, like, to move rocks like Fred Flintstone. When you eat that liquid charged perfect nectar from the gods, your consciousness becomes liquid. Now, what do I mean by that? So many of our problems we don't actually have all the time. So many of our problems we're just carrying around in our aura. These little knots, these little boulders that we carry around like, I'm here, but at the same time, I'm in Toronto at my niece's birthday party. I'm here, but at the same time, I'm worried about the cruise next week. I'm here, but I'm worried about some guy in LA who I think I like. When I chew correctly, I am planted so firmly in my body and so firmly in the moment that those so-called problems disappear. And I'm just here with you in the pink sweater. And that's all that's happening. And I'm just here with you, Jolene. And that's all that's happening. That's one of the points of spiritual practice, is to be present, to be available, and to let the beautiful source energy, which is animating all of us, to move through us. And the thing that gets in the way of that beautiful source energy moving through us is our own egos, our own self-centeredness, and our own blocks. And chewing, weirdly enough, can get rid of them all. So you have this equipment, you now have this knowledge. Don't be like Mary Roach and not use it. You don't have to do it today. Today may be a difficult thing to do, but you have the rest of your life. I encourage you at first to chew one meal. Just try it. Then try one meal a day. See how you feel after that meal compared to the meals that you don't chew at. Then get a buddy and do a chew-a-thon yourself and do an entire week of chewing 50 to 100 times a mouthful. You will be blown away, and you will have a very different understanding and perspective on what it is to be alive in your own body. I'm just going to look at the time. I need to change my glasses to do that because I'm an old woman. It is 10:47, which means we have some time if people have questions. Otherwise, like, I've covered my material. Anybody want to discuss? The box. Oh, question. Oh, we're not allowed to ask questions here? Oh, well, if we have time. If anyone has questions right now. Oh, thank you. Can I read this? Oh, this is for later. Oh, great. Gum. This question comes up often. Gum is not a substitute for chewing, unfortunately. It would be nice if it were, but it doesn't actually stimulate the amylase that we need to stimulate to break down complex carbohydrates and that alkalizes actually gets stimulated after a certain amount of chewing, like 20, 30 times. That's when your parotid gland really starts to give up the goods. So chewing gum, which constantly has you swallowing,